World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings. It did not collapse from explosives or from fuel oil fire.
Those fires brought that building down. Most architects and engineers don't buy it. The theory is that at column 79, under the east penthouse, because the east penthouse falls about 6 seconds prior to the global collapse of this building. So it's targeted, and here's how it goes. Massive fires on this floor expanded these beams in a process, a new phenomena called thermal expansion. This is the official story, pushing this girder off of its seat on this column, causing this floor to fall on this floor, to fall on the next floor, to fall on the next floor, leaving this column unbraced for 9 floors, and therefore it buckles, and then the instability travels upward throughout the inside of the building, and laterally also, gutting the inside of the building, and then the exterior of the building just falls down. All of that happens in about 16 seconds.
Zie je vanaf boven gaan? Nee, je gaat vanaf onder.
Die gaat vanaf onder, ja.
Toch?
Ja.
Ze hebben gewoon kolommen weggeblazen. Ze is nagesprongen.
Dit valt anders dan het World Trade Center.
Vind je niet dan?
Ja, je ziet het, de onderste verdiepingen gaan eerst.
Ja, en de rest zakt er gewoon in. Dus dit is controlled demolition.
Zeker weten.
Zeker weten. Er is nagesprongen. Dit is in opdracht gebeurd. Dat heeft een team gedaan van experts.
Maar dit is ook op 11 september gebeurd.
Dezelfde dag?
Dezelfde dag.
Dezelfde dag? Weet je dat zeker?
Ja.
Was het zeker weten de 11e? Dat kan geen waar zijn.
7 uur nadat de World Trade Center naar beneden viel.
Ja? Hebben ze hard gewerkt.
What do you think about Larry Silverstein's statement?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I went up the new World Trade Center 7. It's got a big proud sign on it that says Silverstein Properties. And I spoke to a controlled demolition expert, I forget his name, up there. And I said, look, is pull it a normal term? And there seems to be some confusion here because the building 7 was creaking and groaning because it had been smashed.
Okay, because I was reading on the internet, people were asking about you, and they said, I heard something that Danny Jowenko retracted his statement of what he said earlier about World Trade Center 7, now saying that it came down by fire. And I said, there's no way that's true.
No, absolutely not.
Because if anybody was real, like when I've called controlled demolitions here in North America,
Yes.
They tell me that, oh, it's possible it came down from fire and this and that and stuff like that.
Listen, when the FEMA makes a report that it came down by fire and you have to earn your money in the States as a controlled demolition company, and you say, no, it was a controlled demolition, you're gone, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You'll be in a lot of trouble if you say that, right?
Of course. That's the end of the end of the story.
That's real extraordinary. Now, none of it could have happened whatsoever is the problem. Let me just start with the fact that these fires were out over an hour prior to when NIST said they were raging in here and expanding these beams. How could the beams be expanding when the fire had been out for an hour? NIST's own photographs reveal that lie on their part. But let's say that fire was raging in here. These beams could not have expanded. Why? They're fireproofed. They have fireproofing. They're designed to keep cool in a fire. But let's say they weren't fireproofed, or they could have been expanded. How did NIST get them to expand in their computer model? They applied all of the heat to that beam in just 1.5 seconds, forcing the beam in the computer model to expand linearly, instead of sagging, which is what the beams do, according to the tests that you saw.
I have had long conversations over the past 2 weeks with contacts at the Army War College, at Headquarters Marine Corps. First, the disbelief, and what I showed them immediately afterwards is an interview with a demolitions expert named Danny Jowenko, and it shows the third building at the World Trade Center going down. And they look at that, and I said, now you understand that if one of the buildings was wired for demolition, all of them were wired for demolition. And that's it. That's the tipping point. Getting into arguments about who was flying what and where they were and whether there was nanothermite, those things are true, but they're incidental. The thing that's necessary is to tell people 3 buildings went down, the third was not hit by a plane, it was wired for controlled demolition, therefore all of them were wired for controlled demolition, and at that point the reaction is rage. First disbelief and then rage.
Nog niet, hè?
Nee?
Nee.
Ken je World Trade Center 7?
Nee, wat is dat, zoiets?
Nog nooit van gehoord?
Nee, nooit van gehoord.
Nee? Do you know how many buildings were coming down on September 11?
I only know of the 2 towers that came down.
Oh, the Twin Towers?
Yeah.
No, there were actually 3 buildings.
3? Okay.
You've never heard about the third building? No? Okay. This is World Trade Center 7. It came down in the afternoon.
Oh, okay, sure. I never knew that.
You never knew that?
I never knew that, no.
Okay. So these came down in the morning,
yes,
and this one in the afternoon.
Sure.
Sounds like an explosion, no?
That's an explosion, sorry?
An explosion, no?
An explosion?
This is just a series of ludicrous assumptions that we're being asked to swallow. This floor could not even have fallen on this floor. Why? Because there's girders, other girders, tying this whole floor system to this column. So the failure of this one girder could never have caused that floor to fail.
I guess it's from the Iceland.
From Iceland?
Volcanoes there.
Volcanoes?
Yeah, maybe. Could be more cheap.
If you say, okay, no problem. And now, what do you think?
Oh, it's at 11.
Yeah.
In New York. Twin Towers.
All right, well, it's good. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Well, we're from an organization of architects and engineers.
Yeah.
And we have studied the collapse of the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And there were explosives being involved.
Yeah.
Do you know this story?
No, not exactly.
No? All right. Well,
there was a plane, you know.
Yes, there was a plane, and that's indeed. We're from architects and engineers from 9/11 Truth.
Yeah.
And they investigated it for about 5 years now, and they said, okay, there are explosive material were involved in the destruction of the towers.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And what they are doing, so that's of course it's not possible if you have the official story.
Yeah.
So, well, I suggest you see on the internet. This in English.
You know, when it's you know the Yankees, they find always some strange stories.
Well,
about
okay, but it's
everything.
World Trade Center 7 collapsed because of fires fueled by office furnishings. It did not collapse from explosives or from fuel oil fire.
But these architects and engineers, do they support your contention? Do you believe that it was an inside job, that 9/11 was an inside job?
All right, Gerardo, I believe it was an inside job, okay?
You believe our government?
Right, wait, look, please, but the thing is we don't have enough time to get into the reasons of that. We set up this Building What campaign. We saw the...
Building What?
Org.
BuildingWhat.org.
The reason we have that is because Judge Lehner, when we had a petition to have a new investigation in New York City about Building 7. And when the lawyers...
And you're asking the New York City Council. I don't want to interrupt also to reopen.
So I know we don't have the time, but anyway, he said, Building what? Because no one has any idea about Building 7. So because I believe in... I've talked to so many firemen, so many EMS workers, policemen, who talk about the explosions. And I know you don't want to get into my son's, but I feel my son died from an explosion. I went to all the 9/11 Commission hearings. I've been researching this for 9 years.
So what do you want? Let's get to the bottom line before we're out of time.
I want truth. I've been lied to. I mean, it's beyond a reasonable doubt that the 9/11 Commission did not tell this story.
9/11 Commission barely mentioned Building 7, if at all.
Right.
Okay, what forum do you want the investigation in?
Well, the forum, what we want it is in New York City right now, because New York City, we feel, has an obligation to investigate 9/11.
So before we're out of time completely, Bob, do you want specifically the New York City Council to open its own investigation of the Building 7 collapse?
Absolutely.
And that would satisfy you if they did that?
Well, I'm not done. I'm still a parent. I'm a parent who has an obligation to find out why my son was murdered. As far as this show and New York City, I want the investigation. That will not be sufficient enough.
Your wound. I get that.
And I'm going beyond that.
But it's the beginning.
Of course it's the beginning, but that's why I support this Building What campaign.
I lost my husband.
My son.
My uncle.
My nephew.
On September 11th, 2001.
Most people don't know a third tower fell that day.
The government says fire brought it down.
The collapse of World Trade Center 7 was primarily due to fires.
I, along with 1,400 other architects and engineers,
have found the government's conclusion to be physically impossible.
Impossible.
We need the truth about what happened that day.
Go to rememberbuilding7.org.
Why it fell, why it matters, and what you can do.